Alex Rogo needs $10 million. We start the chapter with him, Lou, and Ralph Nakamura driving down to corporate to meet with their marketing team. What they've learned through the past few chapters is that they've got way more idle capacity at their plant now that they've made use of all the awesome lessons they've learned from Jonah about how to identify and exploit constraints. Now that they know that they have $10 million in idle capacity, and they also know that Alex Rogo is getting the promotion to run the entire division that we learned in chapter 31, they want to meet with the marketing team led by Johnny Johns and also his top sales guy, Dick Paschke, and talk about different ways that they can get that revenue in the door and what they can do to win some deals. As could be expected, the marketing team has some pushback saying, hey, these deals don't just grow on trees. It's not just going to be easy for us to do this. But then they have an aha moment and identify an interesting account with some difficult needs that's known to be a problem out in the market. That customer's name is Jangler, D-J-A-N-G-L-E-R. They're based in Europe, and they're always pushing for things at low price. So, for instance, they're known that out in the market, they were buying something at a little over $700. Rogo and Lou and Ralph quickly analyzed that their material costs on that product are around $300. So if we look at this from a marginal cost and a marginal revenue standpoint, it's a no-brainer they should go for this business. So they do. Rogo and his team are there. They've got all the data in front of them. They know what they need. They find an interesting account. That account is geographically distinct from their current customers, so they won't learn if they lower pricing. The existing accounts from Rogo's plant aren't going to learn that they've given a discount to this buyer over in Europe. Then Rogo makes a really good decision, asks about lead times in Europe, which they say, oh, hey, they're typically 8, 9, 10, 12 weeks. And he says, we're going to guarantee him 3 to 4 week lead times. So he uses some competitive differentiation that he's learned that his team can do from all the previous chapters and shipping things on time and hitting aggressive delivery schedules. So they take a swing at this deal and they wrap things up. There's a great quote here that Rogo says. He says, you can't rely on marketing people to solve the marketing problems. They're captured by old, devastating, common practices to an even larger extent than production. And that's something I really like professionally. I think if you find people who are stuck in a problem, they're very unlikely to be the right people to unstick themselves from the problem. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there, right? So the people who are stuck in a problem are very often the ones who can be stuck, and the people who can get out of it are already out of it. The next day they wake up, Johnny Johns calls Rogo, and it turns out they got the deal. And Johnny Johns and Paschke managed to get an even better deal. The second main scene in this chapter, we've introduced the library earlier, and from the library that we introduced earlier, we're going to do another kind of callback in that Goldratt's writing style in chapter 36, you remember when he introduced the rules, started using all capital letters. So Rogo goes to the library to do some research. He meets Julie there. This is going to be the very last appearance of Julie Rogo in the book. And he does a lot of thinking of if-then statements in all capital letters, again, as he had done back in chapter 36. And it almost reads like when you would read an old school computer language, in which case think of this being written in the 80s. If-then statements could have been real material in Goldratt's thinking about production and in his development of the theory of constraints. So that is going to be the last time that we see Julie Rogo. There's kind of these cute scenes as they're doing research. Nothing as deep as when they had been reflecting on the origin of the periodic table or some of the characters out of Plato and the Greek history that they talked about in previous chapters. So it's a great chapter. It actually is one of my favorite chapters. I realize I say that every time. This is a great book. If you're going to only read one, this would be the one that I read, especially if you're not an operator, because it shows how much value you can unlock in a company when you have operations and sales working closely together. So anytime you get the chance to read the goal, you get the opportunity to use the theory of constraints, and that lets you make your life and the world around you a little bit better.